standing here tonight with buyer's remorse because I supported Mayor Brandon Johnson. I feel like a fool right now. I feel like a plum fool. But I tell you what, it's okay. Because as I said last night, you can slap us in the face by ignoring us today, but we are punching you in the face by ignoring you at the polling places tomorrow.
The city is now also facing a lawsuit brought by two members of the South Shore Community Group. They held a meeting to talk about the issues they're experiencing with a closed high school turned into a migrant shelter.
So residents are threatening the mayor and are suing the city over their spending on the migrant crisis. This is how we got there. So you know the story. Chicago, New York, and other left-wing cities claimed that they wanted migrants to come there. They wanted open borders and claimed that migrants were welcome, no matter where they came from. Here is the Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson explaining how migrants are welcome in the city and they can handle it.
We know the strength of a city is determined by how we treat the most vulnerable. And so we choose to be a strong city. We must reject a zero-sum formulation between investing in those who have been here for decades and supporting those who have been sit here on a bus even this morning. We can do both, Chicago, and we can all thrive together.
Now, the same message was coming from other liberal states, like New York, where the governor essentially begged migrants to come to New York.
We want people to come here, despite where they came from or despite the circumstances that drove them to this country and to this state. We say you are welcome here. You're welcome with open arms, and we'll work to keep you safe. We'll not only house you, but we'll protect you. And the richness of the culture and the diversity and the food and the restaurants that we know are going to be coming because of these efforts are beyond measure. It's an extraordinary part of our story. And it's woven into the story of New York, and it makes us more vibrant.
Now, this virtue signaling was great for politics. And since almost no migrants were coming to New York and Chicago, but were all staying at the southern border, then they could call the Republicans racist, and they could deny that stricter border policy was necessary. There were no consequences. But the governors in those border states came up with a solution. If cities like Chicago and New York wanted illegal immigrants, then let's send them there. This was a win-win. Those cities get the migrants, and they also get the problem that come with those migrants.
We continue our team coverage on the migrant crisis now. Ken Molestina from our sister station CBS Texas is live for us tonight in El Paso, where buses left today headed for Chicago. Ken?
Yeah, many buses, in fact, Joe, and you're about to hear from a migrant who is headed to Chicago. But before we get to that, I want to show you what the problem is here in El Paso during the evening hours. Behind my shoulders, you can see this is outside of a shelter. They have to prioritize housing the women and the children. So many times the men end up on the sidewalks. As you can see right now, these men will spend the rest of this night here outside. But as you mentioned, the buses are headed to 3 cities. They're headed to New York, to Denver, and of course, Chicago. Charter buses paid for by the state of Texas offering migrants rides out of El Paso onto cities like New York, Chicago, and Denver were seen at a bus depot as scores of asylum seekers jumped on board.
Now, as more and more buses came to those cities, the welcoming atmosphere turned into the horror of illegal immigration. Violent protests started breaking out in places like New York, Chicago.
A demonstration over the ongoing migrant crisis quickly turns violent. Protesters throwing punches, kicking, even choking each other. This chaotic scene unfolded at the doorstep of Gracie Mansion on Manhattan's Upper East Side.
That's the simple solution is no. Turn the buses around.
This is what these kids need for this community. We got violence, we got poverty, we already getting scrapped. Why do we always got to be at the bottom of the barrel? I want Mayor Brandon Johnson to understand that you're selling us out for people who can't vote for you.
Did you hear that? They said, you're selling us out for people who can't vote for you. Wow. Now, it has even gotten to the point where the governor of New York has done a full reversal and has told migrants, hey, if you're coming from another country, don't come to New York. Matter of fact, to quote her, she says, go somewhere else.
But we have to let the word out that when you come to New York, we're not going to have more hotel rooms. We don't have capacity. So we have to also message properly that we're at our limit. If you're going to leave your country, go somewhere else.
So the issue has gotten even worse and not better. The buses keep coming. And what do you do with all these people who have no money, no food, no shelter, and can't take care of themselves? Well, Chicago started having them sleep on the floors of police stations and schools.
Hundreds of migrants seeking asylum continue to sleep in Chicago police stations.
And police union leaders want officials to find a solution to this growing problem.
City Hall criticized this evening for its handling of migrant refugees. Families forced to sleep on the floor at many Chicago police district headquarters because there is nowhere else to go.
Chicago's mayor now issuing an emergency declaration after a surge of new migrant arrivals in the city. The mayor is hoping to get federal and state money to help with the crisis.
Hundreds of families have been living out of police stations and city buildings.
Now, this has drained resources from the black and brown communities that Mayor Johnson said he wanted to help. See, the poor neighborhoods that were already underfunded have it even worse now. Things like after-school programs and senior services had to be cut to make room to take care of migrants. So the citizens of Chicago voiced their concerns to their elected officials.
But during a community meeting on Tuesday, neighbors expressed frustration over the plan, upset that the facilities will no longer host senior events and after-school activities. We talked to one neighbor earlier this morning.
But the thing that we're mostly concerned about is our children, our black children, the football, the soccer, and all the things that they do, and trying to be constructive citizens. And now they're going to take this park, our beautiful park, and give it to migrants. Don't get me wrong, I understand the situation, but that's not on us.
Viable park here that's functioning well in a nice area. Say this was a bad area, they wouldn't be here. Okay? Another thing I want you to understand how we support this park. This park needed air conditioners. You think we went to the park district? No, because we don't need them. We bought them. Supplied this whole park. They needed a stove and a refrigerator. We did it, the Advisory Council. They needed a microwave. We give Christmas parties, and I don't ask these politicians for a dime. And this place is packed. See, they don't like people like me, because I'm not taking their crap. And Brandon Johnson and Mayor and Alderman Terry Farrell, they wear this hat, and it's there. And all this crap about I just got a notice in there. Well, if they don't give you that much respect as alderman, you don't need to be alderman. Okay? So don't drink the Kool-Aid. There are ample places in this city that the migrants can up the health issue, the shots that they haven't had. They're going to set this city back a long ways with this crap that they're doing. Just throwing people in. They don't give a In New York, half the hospitals are full with migrants. They can't get away to. Now, I don't mind, and we're not anti-migrants, but it shouldn't be on our backs. All right, this is our park.
Mr. Glover, thank you so much for your comment.
And I want to say something to you all. And when you leave here, stop depending on the politicians. And stop voting for the same people getting the same results.
So the mayor and other politicians did nothing, forcing the community to take them to court to stop this madness.
Well, some Southside community members are rallying tonight to stop the city from housing migrants in public schools, parks, and police stations.
2 residents have now filed a lawsuit against the city, claiming that its migrant housing at police stations disrupts park programs and violates zoning laws and civil rights. Andrea Medina live for us in the South Shore neighborhood with more. Andrea.
Ben and Lourdes, a small crowd is starting to gather outside the former South Shore High School. Now, this rally won't be taking place for another 30 minutes, but it comes after some residents have taken legal action against the city. Now, at least 2 South Shore residents have filed a lawsuit demanding the city to put an end to creating inhumane conditions for Chicagoans and migrants. They are also asking Mayor Brandon Johnson to discontinue housing migrants in schools, city parks, and police stations. Additionally, they are requesting transparency on how the money is being being spent on migrants. The same people behind this suit also filed another one back in May, hoping to prevent the shuttered South Shore High School from being turned into a shelter for asylum seekers. As the city struggles to find them housing, the number of buses carrying migrants to Chicago is now reaching double digits. More than a dozen are expected to arrive today.
Now, the people of Chicago have a message for Mayor Johnson.
Is that you'll see a united front between the South Side and the West Side. We are standing together, united. This is something that you've never seen before in this city. The South Side and the West Side come together for a common cause. I'm standing here tonight with buyer's remorse because I supported Mayor Brandon Johnson. I feel like a fool right now. I feel like a plum fool. But I tell you what, it's okay. Because as I said last night, you can slap us in the face by ignoring us today, but we are punching you in the face by ignoring you at the polling places tomorrow. We will not be disrespected. Now you think about this. I come from the same neighborhood that Mayor Johnson says he comes from. And you mean to tell me that you don't respect us enough to come and sit down with us and have a conversation? It's unacceptable. But that's okay, you see, because what you have done is you have caused us to rise up. Yes. You have caused us to come together. You have caused us to unite. That's right. You think you have unitability with CTU? You haven't seen us. You haven't seen the monster that you have created.
Now, polls are showing that the majority of people in Chicago want to end their sanctuary city status.
As more buses carrying migrants arrive every day, Chicago's designation as a sanctuary city is waning among likely voters, according to a new poll conducted by M3 Strategies.
A majority of Chicagoans prefer to end sanctuary city versus keep it.
And now, on top of that, the crisis is getting worse as more migrants arrive in the city each day.
Increasingly, the migrant crisis is being felt far from the border, including cities like Chicago, where officials say resources are running thin. Julia Ainsley is there tonight.
Tonight, officials warning Chicago is approaching a breaking point. Tents full of desperate migrants lining Chicago's iconic Lakeshore Drive. Migrant shelters inside O'Hare Airport. A total of 17,000 migrants showing up since last August, and officials expect 1,200 per day to keep coming.
Now Chicago is building sprawling tent camps to get migrants off the streets of places like this ahead of the cold winter months.
So now, here's the bottom line. The politicians in Chicago, New York, San Francisco, and all these places deemed any type of reasonable border policy racist. They said they wanted migrants to come to those cities. And guess what? They got the migrants. Now, it's a totally different story. It seems like the people in these communities are ready for a change. Will they continue to vote in the left-wing radical policies that got them in this place? Only time will tell. Now, as I always say, part of me says you get what you vote for, and they voted for this specifically. So let them suffer until they vote for something else. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section, because let's just be fair. When it was someone else's problem, they were so happy virtual signaling. Now it's their problem, and they are saying turn the buses around and send them back. Peace.